If I had told you at the beginning of this year that we would have been facing a pandemic by the name of COVID-19 that was going to turn this world upside down, you would have never believed it. The COVID Conquerors series on the Aisha Muhammad podcast. In this climate of fear, confusion, and suppression, I saw the need to create the COVID Conquerors podcast series. COVID Conquerors features phenomenal people who are, despite their challenges, thriving personally or in service to their community. COVID Conquerors airs live on Facebook and YouTube every other Thursday at 9 p.m. GMT, that's UK time, on the Aisha Muhammad podcast. This podcast aims to encourage, inspire, and empower you, to reassure you that in this time of uncertainty, should you look, you will see that there are great opportunities for you to thrive in aspects of your life, regardless to whom or what. It's time to start the live podcast where you'll meet this week's phenomenal guest. Let the countdown begin. Welcome to the Aisha Muhammad podcast. Thank you so much for deciding to join us tonight. I have a phenomenal woman with me. Her name is Pamela R. Haynes, and she is the award-winning author of this book right here, Loving the Brothers. And I've been having an absolute ball reading this book. Just going to read a little bit from the back so you can find out more about her. Pamela R. Haynes, Dip SW, Dip HEBA, lots of letters. She grew up in Canning Town, East London in the United Kingdom. 2017 signals her 30 years anniversary of working in the criminal justice system at the time of writing this book. And as such, she was nominated and awarded a Lift Effects International Award for her services in the criminal justice sector. Pam was a senior probation officer managing a team of women who supported female service users to make changes in their lives for the better. Pam has previously worked as a domestic abuse facilitator and with victims of domestic violence. And in her spare time, Pam enjoys baking cupcakes, celebration cakes also, and Loving the Brothers is her first book. Okay, award-winning. If you look on Amazon, she's got so many reviews. Now, before I go any further, let me introduce myself. My name is Aisha Muhammad, and I am the host of this podcast. This series is called COVID Conquerors. I'm also a certified life coach and a content creator. Pam, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I'm so honored to have you here on the podcast with me tonight. Before we go any further, please can you share out this podcast far and wide, because I know that this content is going to be able to help people. We are in the United Kingdom currently on the third national lockdown, and we want to uplift people's spirit. We want to let them know that there's hope and that you can actually thrive during this pandemic. Many people are. So whatever you're going through, just hold tight and take in this inspiration. Share with others, please. So I'm going to get right into it. Many people, Pam, want to write a book. Okay, many have said so for years and they haven't started because, quite frankly, they don't know where or how to start. So tell me, as this is your first novel, how did you start writing this wonderful book?
Yeah. Well, the title came to me about 20 years ago. So
Mhm.
it's something that's always been on my bucket list, or something that I've always aspired to do. I practically grew up in the library in Canning Town,
Mhm.
and I'm always in awe of other authors and other writers.
Mhm.
And it's something that I've always wanted to do. The reason for doing the book, in the last 3 years, is that I was approaching a milestone birthday, and I had a look at my bucket list. There were still quite a few things on there for me to do, and I wanted to mark my anniversary in some way, and that was either doing a master's or writing a book. So I had in my imagination, I had that I would be graduating, on my birthday, with a master's in criminal justice or community justice. And as I said, I wanted to mark it in some way.
Mhm.
Nothing happens by coincidence, and I got the opportunity to attend an award ceremony.
Excuse me.
My
Yeah.
friend was picking up an award,
Mhm.
and I was her plus one. And on my table, all the other women were picking up awards as well. And I happened to meet Marcia M. Spence, who is my publisher.
Mhm.
Um, at the time, I was in awe of her because she had copies of her book on the table called Geraldine's Pearl. And I
Mhm.
said to her, you know what, one day I'm going to write a book. And she said, well, I'm moving into publishing, so let's stay in touch. And the rest, as they say, is history, really, because she kept me to task. And my book was published in 2018, 8 weeks before my 50th birthday. So my
Mhm.
why back then was to really just to realize my dream of becoming a published author. As you could imagine, working for the probation service, I've come across thousands and thousands of people and their stories. And
Mhm.
in 2018, it was my turn to share my stories and share what I've been imagining and dreaming about.
That's
So that's my
absolutely
reason.
fantastic. That's good. I mean, we've got to get through those things that's on the bucket list, you know. And it was really good that you decided to go forward, because your books bring a lot of pleasure to people. You know, I've spoken to persons and they've, on the off just said, yeah, that book is really, really good. I really enjoyed reading it. I'm halfway through. I'm
Yeah,
enjoying my read as well. It's such a relatable book, based around relationships, women, just, brothers, things that happen in life, and I
yeah,
can pick little segments out of the lives of these sisters and say, yeah, I can identify with that. Yeah, I went through that. I know so and so who went through that. And it's just so very descriptive in how
thank
you
you.
describe, the thoughts of those women, and how they move. It's so funny. It's just so funny. I just love it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had friends who've called me and they will say, I know that family. I know where
Mhm.
they live. They
Oh,
haven't got 5 girls, they've got 5 boys. And I'm saying, no,
mhm.
no, it's definitely fiction. It's it's from my imagination. But I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that the book is resonating with people,
Mhm.
and they're really enjoying, although it's a heavy subject matter, they're really enjoying the read as well. So I'm very pleased
Mhm.
about that.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I mean, when it comes to reading um, and writing literacy, I think, we've kind of come a little bit down the wheel of time from when it was once said that if you want to keep something from a black man or woman, put
Yeah,
it in a book. Okay, there's been a rise in consciousness. Social media has been a big part of that. Audio books as well, people will listen to an audio book, hence podcasts now as well. People like to take in
absolutely.
information, via this medium as well.
Yeah.
um, People read articles online and such like. Things are changing. There's a rise in consciousness, and as a people, we tell stories. Our granny would have told us about certain things that happened to her and other relatives and people that she knew, and certain customs and things are passed down to us. So, with that being said, what do you think, Pamela? How important is it for us as a people to not only just verbalize our life stories, but and our creativity, but to actually write it down?
Oh my, it's 100% important that we do that, and the time for us to do that is now. I mean, I was an English literature student, and I studied Shakespeare and Chaucer and the Bronte sisters and Jane Austen and everybody else.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry to say that flash forward all those years, I have a son in secondary school, and he's studying the same books. You know, the same
Mhm.
dry texts get regurgitated in the
Mhm.
education curriculum over
Yeah.
and over and over again. So the
Mhm.
time is now for us to look at redressing the balance, because
Mm.
alongside Jane Eyre and all the other established traditional authors, there are a
Yeah.
wealth of African and African Caribbean and African American authors who are out there. You know, I think
Mhm.
off the top of my head, I can name about 40 authors who are out there who have just come around in the last 5 years or so, who are
Mhm.
writing everything. You know, they're writing self-help books, they're writing vegan recipe cookery books, they are
Mhm.
writing you know, historical fiction, you name it, science
Mhm.
fiction. In just about every genre, there are Black authors who are out there who are honing their crafts, and
Mm.
their books are now, you know, more accessible. So, you know, you can find these books on, you know, the big Amazons and also that, but you can also find niche Black bookshops which are
Mm.
specializing you know, I really do feel as though I'm part of a renaissance as well of other authors who are just getting our stories out there. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, you know, we are now putting on things like our own book clubs, which I've seen
Mhm.
a rise of a number of book clubs during lockdown, which specialised in Black literature. So it's
Mhm.
certainly getting there, and you know, it was last year that you know, we had a Booker Prize winner who
Mhm.
was a Black woman, and we're picking up, you know, prizes all over the place for our work. So I definitely do feel that the buzz is there, the will is there,
Mhm.
and now is the time for people to start writing that story, their own stories.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I am actually writing a book. I'm in the very beginning stages of writing a book to do with affirmations and such like. So I hope to be a contributor. Let's not talk about hope. I am going to be. I am.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Coming soon. So watch out for that. Watch out for that. Um, Now, you have spoken about being a probation officer, working in probation. You were a senior probation officer.
Mm.
How does this experience tie into your book?
Yeah. Originally, I started off working for the Crown Prosecution Service,
Mhm.
and I was based at most of the Crown Courts in Northeast London, but in particular, Snaresbrook Crown Court. And what I noticed was a pattern of offending where the same offenders were coming through the doors, being
Mm.
sentenced, and then 6 months later coming back through the criminal justice system. And working for the prosecution, I felt that I was part of the problem and not part of the solution. And
Mhm.
what I loved about the role of the probation officer at court was there was something quite influential about the reports that they used to write to submit to the judges.
Mhm.
And it meant that not everybody always went to, there wasn't only one sentence, there was a range of sentencing options, and it was the job of the probation officer to point that out. And they told stories. They told the story of the
Mhm.
offender and what their journey has been like up until that point where they appeared before the courts. So
Mhm.
an opportunity came up for me to apply for a job in the probation service, and I literally walked across the road to the probation office and
Mhm.
started to work there. And I went straight into youth justice, and
Mhm.
you know, had a ball working with young people, because as you know how challenging young people can be, but I thoroughly enjoyed that. I got the
Mhm.
opportunity to train and earn a sponsorship um, to train for my diploma in social work at
Mhm.
Kingston
Mhm.
University.
Mhm.
Enjoyed it so much, I decided to stay on and top up my qualification to a degree in community justice,
Mhm.
and went back to work for the probation service. we have always told stories and represented and helped advocate on behalf of the offender.
Yeah.
And when I got to work with perpetrators of domestic abuse, I started to
Mm-hmm.
hear their stories and found out that a lot of perpetrators were also victims. So
Mm-hmm.
and you heard their stories as well, and that's
Mm-hmm.
how um, my planning or my ideas around domestic abuse, how that sprung up into the story that we have now. But
Mm-hmm.
my book isn't solely based on that. My book
Mm-hmm.
is also about Black courtship, Black
Mm-hmm.
love,
Mm-hmm.
Black relationships, and how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And people have really enjoyed following the stories of the couples to see how their relationships develop.
Yeah.
And so it's not just the negative stuff. I'm also hoping to
Mm-hmm.
show the positive stuff as well. So that's really
Mm-hmm.
how the story developed. And the reason
Yeah.
why it's called Loving the Brothers is because
Mm-hmm.
they're actually brothers, three
Yes.
brothers,
Mm-hmm.
Manly Jr. and Marcus.
Okay.
And,
Mm-hmm.
they're quite close, but very different in personalities. So I wanted to demonstrate that just because you have the same parents, you also
Mm-hmm.
have your individuality and how you grow,
Very
what you get
true.
exposed to. So,
Mm.
I'm hoping there's lots of themes that are coming out of. I was recently asked about the Windrush scandal. And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to demonstrate in the book that there is also a hint of that. I think you're not quite there yet. You're
No,
partway through the book, but there's a
that's
little
right.
bit there
Mm-hmm.
about children who get left behind. So when their parents
Mm-hmm.
did travel to the UK, what
Yeah.
about children who are getting left behind? What's their experience? In terms of loss and not having
Mm-hmm.
their parents with them. So
Abandonment. Yeah.
I was on the money in terms of being quite current with what was happening around the time of me writing the book.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And some of what you mentioned in regards to these stories that get told at probation and working with youth just brought back to me. I used to work with young people who were classed homeless, age 16 to 21
Yeah,
years of age, and they were living in supported accommodation. I was a support worker. So there were occasions where I had to write these like statements of remorse, breaking down their history and what kind of life that they had lived that had, led them to commit whichever unfortunate crime that they did, and how remorseful
yeah,
they were about it, and submit
yeah.
that to the court. So yes, stories.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
traditionally, my father was my first storyteller. So when we were
Mhm.
growing up and we had our animal crackers and our cocoa tea, we would sit down and listen to some fascinating stories about how he grew up in Barbados,
Mhm.
climbing coconut trees and, just enjoying his childhood, playing cricket on the beach, all of those kind of things. And
Mhm.
those kind of stories fascinated me. But at that time, people didn't really think about writing those stories down.
Mm.
So they were passed on from generation to generation, the stories that I now tell my children. But I think it's crucial now that we actually drop those recipes down, we drop
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
stories down. And
Yep.
I get a thrill knowing that my book is in the British Library. And
Mhm.
decades from now, someone can pick up Loving the Brothers and have a read and see what my thinking or what my storytelling was all about.
Mm.
So we need to start legacy building, not just
Mhm.
for our children, but for our children's children.
Mhm.
I'm minded of the book 12 Years a Slave, which was
Mhm.
written, obviously, the turn of the last century. But what I get thrilled about is it can be picked up in this decade, in the 2020s, and be made into a film. So
Mm.
who knows what kind of legacy that we could potentially be leaving for our children and for our children's children.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow, wow. I'm very proud of you for what it is that you've been able to do. I
Thank
see
you.
your social media. I imagine before lockdown, all of these kind of photos that you've taken with people and events and stuff. It's just being able to see how the power of a book can actually bring people together. unify people. And that's very, very powerful. And that is what we need in this time when there's so much confusion and stuff going on around us, to be able to have things that we can identify with, it resonates with us, and we can come together on that basis. So a book is not just a book is a tool that can actually unify the minds of the people and actually help us to come together, in physical spaces together when we celebrate our achievements of what we've been able to do by putting things in a book. So well done to you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I love the idea. I love the idea that the book is being read in New Zealand. It's been read in Australia. It's been read in South Africa. It's been read in the States, throughout the Caribbean. I just love the idea that the book, I can't travel. We can't travel at the moment, but the book can certainly travel and impact on people as well. So I get a lot of correspondence, from people who told me that they've enjoyed the book, and looking forward to the next one.
Indeed, looking forward to the next one. It's so easy to read. I'm just like this, my finger across the page is awesome. Okay, so ultimately, what do you want readers to take away from the book? We've discussed a lot about what they can take away from it, but what was your motive when writing the book as the author?
Originally, it was all about me. It was all about me feeling the need to self-actualize and feeling that I'd reached my full potential. It was about me realizing my dreams. But the impact of writing a book means that my why has now changed into wanting to help people to write their own stories, wanting to mentor people to get their own books out there. I've been able to use the book as a platform to meet other authors, to meet other writers. My publisher has involved me in training new writers who are coming up through the publishing house, telling them about my experiences. It has opened up so many other doors for me to do other things which are not even remotely related to my book, but it's definitely served as a platform for me to be able to reach other people. So I'm thoroughly enjoying the journey. It's met my expectations and way beyond what I thought it would.
That's really awesome, because I've heard people say things that you don't just expect to make money when you write a book. A book is not just going to make you money, and I think we're kind of proving it. It can actually bring about so much more than that. The activities nowadays around authors who write books is not just to write a book and put it out there and sell it. As you've described, there's all these other facets, all these other activities that you can actually engage in to, further leverage the book to reach people, and, with the content that's in the book, touch people and effectively change, their lives. So the modern day author, is really somebody, he's very influential, and who can bring about change, social change, and actually cultural change, steering people in a positive direction, as a community, as a people. And that's powerful,
Yeah, I mean, I've been invited to sit on panels for Black History Month, and I've been a judge on a beauty pageant. I have met the Deputy High Commissioner and the Commissioner of Barbados. I'm about to have contact with the Jamaican High Commission office, because the book, as you know, is partly based in Jamaica, and the doors that have opened for me as a result of writing a book has been absolutely amazing. I've become my own social media whiz, which I didn't think that I would be able to do. So in a very short period of time, I've already reached over 2,000 followers on Instagram, and again, it's just a platform for you to launch yourself off of. And as the doors open, I'm just willing to go through them. I was approached during in September to write a piece about my experiences of COVID and having to travel during a pandemic and what that was like. And that was by a national newspaper in Barbados. I'm telling you, opportunities just just land with me every day. And I'm thoroughly enjoying the experience. If you want to make money, I would say don't write a book. But if you want to have a wealth of experiences, then I will say writing a book certainly gives you the opportunity. You become your own expert, your mini expert on your subject matter of your book. Nobody knows it better than me. Although I have had people who have read the book 5 and 6 times, I haven't done that. But you do become a mini expert around your subject matter and what you're talking about.
Wonderful. Excellent. That is really awesome. I'm loving that. I'm loving that. Now, what kind of challenges, you just kind of spoke about traveling during a pandemic, were there any other challenges that you encountered during this pandemic season in regards, you can base your answer around working on your second novel?
Yeah. Loving the Sisters is part 2 to Loving the Brothers. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's a trilogy. So
right.
I'm about to start Loving the Children during this pandemic. And, to start with, I mean, it was novel having my husband home from work. He was furloughed, having my son home, doing the whole online learning classes and all that kind of thing. And we had, all the films that I had that I wanted to see. I watched them all and caught up. All the books that I wanted to read, and you were putting them on the side until you had time. You now had time to do all of these things. So during 2020, I read 68 books during the pandemic. Love reading, and finally had the time to sit down and to be able to do all of that. And then the novelty starts wearing off. Did a few exercise classes, also did a few online writing classes as well, because everyone just switched what they were doing to being online. There were a few book festivals that was out there that I was due to appear in person. I ended up appearing online as well, and getting the book out there online as well with people across the world. And you then get down to the thing, right, I've baked soda bread, I've done all the things that I said I wanted to do. It's time now to sit down and be a bit more disciplined about writing the second book. So the first book, I started at chapter 1 and I carried on writing until I got to the end. But with the second book was a bit more planning involved. So I did a lot more. But in chapter 1, X happens. And by the time chapter 1 finishes, the reader will know why. Yeah. Then I started chapter 2. This is what's going to happen. And then by the end of chapter 2, the reader will be aware that X is going to happen. So I started to plan out a schedule of how the book was going to look. But my characters are quite naughty, really, and they take me down different routes, and they say, no, that can't happen. This is what's going to happen. And we row all the time. We fall out. They keep me awake. My characters keep me awake. One said to me, I have to write down exactly what she says, and she's not going to stop until I do. So I had her story in a loop in my head until I said, okay, I'll write it down. Just let me sleep. And before I knew it, I think having accountability partners is important. So I have 3 women who are my close friends. One of them is my sister. And I asked her to read over each chapter to make sure that I could make links between Loving the Brothers and Loving the Sisters. So they would come back to me with things that I may have missed from the first, that I didn't include in the second book. And before I knew it, it took me, I would say, from March, when we first went into lockdown, to August this year to finish my manuscript. I think creating a small window for you to do your writing is important. So you have to work out whether you're a morning person or you're a night owl. and I'm
Yeah.
a night owl. So this timing of
Ditto.
this podcast
Hey.
is perfect. It's perfect for me because, you know, you can guarantee that I'm awake to the early hours. So that would be my time to start, you know, to start writing. And I don't have any posh software. I don't have a flash laptop. A lot of the time it's me and my notebooks, or you know, I might dictate a few things,
Yeah.
you know, on my phone and all of that, but by any means necessary, really, because you just never know when you're going to be inspired. So I will have notebooks all around the house, pens all around the house, so that when I do feel inspired, I can just go nearby and just jot something down. So, you know, you might hear a little phrase that comes up and you think, oh, you know what? I could include that in my book. So let me just write down the phrase. So that's how I went about writing Loving the Sisters. And I think Loving the Sisters is about between 75,000 and 80,000 words. So it's a lot longer read than Loving the Brothers. And that was my attempt at consolidating feedback from what people have told me. And the main feedback is that Loving the Brothers was too short. It left them on a cliffhanger, and they wanted more, so I'm giving them more.
That's not a bad thing. That sounds brilliant.
No. Yeah.
You know, that's what we want, you know. Yeah, it's just like when you watch your, you know, TV drama, when the episode comes to an end, as the season finished and you got to wait, you're like, you know, oh, just at the edge of your seat. So that's some brilliant feedback, and it's good that you took the feedback and you're, you know, using it to you know, make the sequel what it will be, which I'm sure is absolutely fantastic. So now we're just going to go to a short break, and then we'll be back. We'll see you on the other side. It's great you're enjoying the show. Are you a COVID conqueror? Are you thriving personally or by serving your community during this pandemic? If this is you and you want to inspire others by sharing your story on the COVID Conquerors series, apply now. Send an email to aishapodcast@yahoo.com. Oh, and remember to share this podcast with those you know it will help. Now, back to the interview. And we're back. So I'm here for those of you who may have just joined with my very special and phenomenal guest, Pamela R. Haynes. She is the award-winning author of the book Loving the Brothers. We've been having a wonderful conversation, which you can join in by leaving some comments in the comment section. And also, you know, invite others to come and join in, share, and share. And I also want to remind you about the special free gift that I have for you, which you can access via the caption of this broadcast, which is the 7 foods that will boost your immunity. And it also comes with recipes. Okay, this is called COVID Conquerors. Okay, we conquer in the physical, in the spiritual, and in the mental realms. Okay, so that will help you physically, just to gird up yourself, boost your immune system, so that, you know, by the grace of God, we can stay COVID free. So please get your download. The link is in the caption, and if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description, and after the show I'll put the link in the comments. So let's continue, Pamela. We've just entered into, as I said in the beginning, a nationwide lockdown. This is about the 3rd one that we have had to, you know, weather since the start of COVID. And people are obviously going through a hard time, okay? Being hammered. You know, some people it's financially, some people it may be their mental health, some people may, you know, be trying to recover from COVID, because you have what they call now these long haulers who, after they've so-called recovered, they have these other ailments that they are having to fight off before they can actually, so-called return to normal or to, good health. Business people, I mean, I even watched some of the shops on the high street. 1 minute they're open, trying to recover from the last lockdown. Then another one comes, many people, their businesses have folded. This podcast is to let people know that despite these situations, there are some people who are thriving, and it's not just to look at it in the way of, okay, this person's making money, and acquiring things, although some people are, but just to be able to have peace of mind, to think clearly, to be able to keep calm, to, like yourself, find ways of utilizing time. These are all signs of thriving and getting through this dark time that we are facing. So again, if someone's struggling, Pamela.
Sorry?
If someone's struggling, if they are having a hard time right now, they are at their wits' end, they may feel that they cannot cope. What words of encouragement, what tips even can you give to help them at this time?
I think what got me through the last lockdown is definitely the Zoom calls that I've had with family members. We set one up every single Sunday, bearing in mind I've got family in Essex, I've got my son in Manchester, I've got one in Berkshire. We're all over the place. And with households not being able to mix as well, that's like another added layer. I acutely felt it at Christmas when we were planning to have the boys back home and planning to have at least 6 people at home, and then we weren't able to. So I definitely know how it feels to become isolated in that way. But I felt that keeping in touch with family members via Zoom helped. It wasn't a solution, it wasn't ideal, but being able to see their faces, being able to have conversations, being able to have updates of our interpretation of what was happening with the new regulations, and also having a good time as well. So, we had reasons to celebrate during lockdown as well. Birthdays when we couldn't get together, anniversaries where we couldn't get together. We held that precious time on our Zoom calls, was quite important to us during that time. And you find that during crisis, people step up in your life. So I found that one of my sons certainly stepped up in terms of organizing the Zoom calls, making sure we had family quizzes, made sure that we all stayed close, inquiring about each other. And in the absence of having, family Zoom calls, the importance of maintaining friendships. So wherever possible, we would have Zoom calls with our friends. I've been to Zoom parties, which have been an absolute blast in terms of getting people together, playing music, and again, sharing stories. All of these really helped in my well-being. For me, exercise helped. So just before lockdown, I bought a treadmill, which came in handy, secondhand, from eBay. But we set that up indoors, and it meant that for an hour I could just get on and just walk on the treadmill. And I've got friends who also join in of those kind of exercises classes. I'm on the treadmill. One's on the one with where you pull the arms and cycle. And another one is on her bike, all stationary. And we can have conversations and just catch up and all that time. In this climate, I think for those who are completely isolated, there is no shame or embarrassment in asking for help, especially from other professionals who it's their job to look out for people and their well-being as well. So I do know a few people who have reached out to professionals to keep their mental health in check.
Yeah.
Go for, if you can go for a walk, go for a walk in a park, and do whatever you have to do to stay well and to stay connected with people. So I do have one or two people who, I will at least ring twice a week just to check in with them to find out how they were doing. And this morning was no different. I've already checked in with a friend to make sure that she's okay, because it feels as though COVID is coming closer to home. It used to be something that happened out there, people that you knew, but at the moment, it's people that it's their parents, it's their aunts, it's their uncles. So I think it's important that we try and stay connected as much as possible.
And I think that that is some really great advice, reach out. Reach out, whether you're concerned about others and you want to reach out, but even if you're the person yourself who's feeling away, pick up the phone and call somebody. And if you don't get them, keep going down the list. And if you don't get them, then try again later. We've all got a responsibility to look after ourselves, to make that decision that we are not going to allow ourselves to be suppressed, that we are actually going to go against that energy, and that we are going to survive, and that we are going to go one step further and thrive, because we are gods,
I mean,
we have that ability to get through anything if we decide
I'm really grateful though to have good neighbors, because it's very often been said, oh, people in London, they don't care about each other, nobody knows each other. But my neighbors hadn't seen me during lockdown, and they got together to do an intervention, to knock on my door just to check that I was okay. And it was just simple as, we haven't seen Pam because there was a period when I was shielding as well. And, we haven't seen her about, is she all right? And I think that went a long way for me to, showing that people in my community actually cares.
Yes.
And, and there are a lot more people out there that care than but if you need help, be the first to put your hand up and say that you need help, because it's not easy.
Yeah. That's true. And I think it's a great learning for us now, because as a people, we've been through so much, been through slavery, and we continue to go through discrimination and, a bag of other things, to be honest. The list is that long. But back in the day, we used to look in on one another and have a more kind of communal spirit among us, and we've kind of lost that along the way. So whenever there is something that maybe doesn't look too good, or positive, if you just look into it more, you will find the light, you will find positivity within it. We're being forced to go back to basics, how we used to be, where we used to care for one another, look for one another. And
pick up new skills, So, my parents use Zoom. They learned how to use Zoom throughout this pandemic. They learned how to use WhatsApp and make WhatsApp video calls. So people are learning how to adapt to the situation, where they can still keep in touch with friends and families and loved ones, and move with the times, really. So yes, I think this pandemic has taught people what is important. Do I start working at 16 and finish at 60? Or the rushing, the commute and all of that, they have learnt another way to adapt. And a lot more people, even when things go back to normal, there are still some core lessons that they learned from lockdown that they're going to continue with. And I think that's amazing. I mean, I'm in my office space now, which was built during the last pandemic. And quite a few people that I know have managed to squeeze a desk in somewhere and adapt to what's going on, and being able to work from home has given them lots more freedom. They can work from home and do their washing up and put their laundry on and cook a full meal and still be productive on the 9 to 5 job as well. So it's taught us new ways to save time and to do things differently, where we're having a much better quality of life as well.
That is a very, very good point to highlight. It really is. I've chosen to homeschool. So 24/7, it's me and my wonderful little people, as I like to call them. And, you know, it's love. It's absolute love. And you do juggle, and there is more of a sense of freedom, you know, in how you manage your time and seeing what is really, really important in this life, and going into self and asking some questions, you know, who am I? Why am I here? You know, how am I gonna live out the rest of my life? What things do I want to do? You know, who means you know, something to me? How can I positively affect others during this time? Because there's been so many sudden losses of people, you know. So it's been very good. People have become closer to God. People have becoming so creative, you know. You wrote a book. And there's many other people establishing businesses and doing all kind of things. So it's really, to what I always come back to saying, is to live a life of gratitude. Be very grateful for what it is as your starting point, and that usually raises your tone to then be able to, you know, dig a bit deeper of what you can bring about out of yourself, which is positive, which will positively affect others. So it's not all bad, you know. There's much good in it. Yeah, should we wish to seek the good, we will find it. So that's really awesome. And thank you for those tips and those perspectives. And I really hope that, you know, persons out there listening audience, that you find it helpful and can actually put it to use. Because whenever we are given some tips and tools and knowledge, it's only useful if we make the decision to use it. Okay, let's be found using it. So you've kind of spoken about some of the things that we can look forward to in the future. Is there anything else that you have in the pipeline that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, well, I'm writing Loving the Children at the moment, which is going to be about child protection, safeguarding, and family. So enjoying the writing experience when the stories come to me. So it's going to be really, really juicy. So I'm excited about that. I'm taking part in the Brooklyn book fair. It's called the Fresh Conversation book fair in later on this month, which I'm really excited about. In fact, that's Saturday. I'm taking part of that. I better remember. All online. I'm hoping that a day comes when I'm able to attend the book fair in person. I have a TV interview tomorrow morning, which I'm excited about. Again, you know, writing a book opens up so many opportunities for you to do. A couple of more podcasts coming my way as well. And at the moment, I'm just contented with that. My main focus for 2021 is to get a literary agent and to approach a traditional publishing house for them to publish my books. That's my main aim for 2021. But I'm learning to say yes to things that come my way, and then working out how I'm going to do it afterwards. So that's you know, just saying yes. Yeah, I'll do it. You know, we spent a lifetime of saying no to things, thinking that we're not adequate, we're not intelligent enough, it's not our place. But when these doors open, we really boldly have to walk through them and enlarge our territory. You know, walking like you own the place. That's going to be my mantra for 2021. Just walking like I own the place, and see what happens.
I love it. I love it. That's the way to go. That is absolutely the way to go. You know, say yes. You know, as they say, was it feel the fear, but do it anyway? You know, it has to be done, because if not now, when? And if not you, who? So
exactly
go for it. Go for it. So tell us, you know, you've told us about all of these wonderful events that you have coming up and appearances that you're going to make. Sorry about that. How can we stay in contact with you?
Yeah, for your list, I'm everywhere, by the way. So I'm on Instagram at Loving the Brothers Author. I'm on Twitter at Pam Haynes. I'm on Facebook at Loving the Brothers or by Pamela R. Haynes, and that's my author page. I'm on YouTube at Pamela R. Haynes TV, and I'm on LinkedIn, author Pamela R. Haynes. So I'll be delighted to hear from anybody that's listening to reach out to me, especially if you have ambition to write your own book. So if it's on your bucket list and you want a further discussion about how to go about it, whether you want to go down a traditional publishing route, whether you want to go down a self-publishing route, if you're new to social media and you want to know how to increase your presence, and you want to just have that discussion, I'm happy for people to reach out to me.
Awesome. That is fantastic. Thank you for letting us know that. Thank you to everyone that has been watching tonight or this afternoon, for our listeners in the United States and wherever else you are around the world. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. It's been wonderful spending time with all of you. It's been wonderful, Pam, interviewing you and hearing of all of your successes and how you've been able to touch the lives of others during this pandemic. Very inspirational woman, and I wish you all the best. I really, really do. I'm going to be looking out for you. I love your social media. You're always finding something to post and all your beautiful pictures and such. Like, absolutely wonderful job that you're doing. So all the best for the future. Once again, everyone, please remember to download, if you haven't yet, this free gift of the ebook 7 Foods to Boost Your Immunity. Definitely get that. And after this podcast, continue to share with others. And good night. It's been wonderful sharing time and space. Be back again in a fortnight with another phenomenal guest. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
I must have set up at least 15 plus food banks.
We need good examples of marriage.
Oh, wow. I am resilient, I am strong, and I am capable.
Sit down and wait for this thing to pass over. We're going to operate. You know what they say, learn to dance in the storm.